Dr. Ansardi back here to give you an introduction to the topic of Unit 2 here in Biology 202, which will be the endocrine system. And hopefully you remember from Biology 201 that the endocrine system, when you learned about your body system overview at the very beginning of the course, your endocrine system is a system of glands inside your body that produce chemicals called hormones that are involved in controlling many other important bodily processes. Is my pen working here? Sure doesn't look like it. Let's see. All right, y'all know how it goes here with the little pen when we're doing these videos. Let's take just a couple of minutes to compare the endocrine system with the nervous system that you learned about at the end of Biology 201, because both of those body systems are involved in control of bodily processes, bodily functions. And hopefully you remember that your nervous system consists of your central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and then your peripheral nervous system, which includes the cranial and spinal nerves that branch off of your CNS. Nervous system, as you learned about pretty extensively in Biology 201, exerts control through electrochemical impulses, the depolarization of the membranes of neurons and transmitting that signal from one neuron to another, and ultimately to muscles and glands that produce the effects that are under control of the nervous system. And another key feature of the nervous system, fast acting. Okay, so when the nervous system decides to do something for you, those effects can occur within milliseconds. Like think about your heart rate increasing due to stress. That happens almost immediately without you thinking about it. Now the endocrine system, in contrast, and hopefully you may remember, dig back deep into Biology 201. The endocrine system is a system of glands within the body, and these are ductless glands, so they don't have little tubes or ducts that carry the products of the gland up to a body surface somewhere. Instead, they just secrete these chemical hormones that they make into the surrounding tissue fluids, and then ultimately those chemical hormones move into the lymphatic vessels or the capillaries that are surrounding the organ. They uptake these the hormones. And then these hormones can travel all throughout the body. So they go everywhere in the body because they get into the bloodstream. Okay, so these are secreted by glands with a rich blood supply, lots of local capillaries that will uptake these hormones. Another key difference between the endocrine system and the nervous system, and my little pen menu down here is covering up the text, takes longer for responses to be generated, okay, and the effects tend to last longer. So unlike your nervous system, where your nervous system can decide, we're going to change something here, and that can happen within a fraction of a second, in the case of the endocrine system, the time it takes to secrete the hormones and have those hormones travel throughout the body can be minutes or even longer. But on the other hand, nervous system control can last for a split second, whereas control by hormones can have very long-lasting effects that can go on and on and on much longer. So those are a couple of key differences. Now, throughout this unit, you're going to be studying the various endocrine glands within the body that produce all of these hormones, and you're going to learn about the hormones that they all produce and what they do, what effects that they have on the body, how do they exert their control. So the glands you will primarily be studying are the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Okay, and hopefully you remember that the hypothalamus is located on the inferior medial portion of the brain. It's actually nervous tissue, but it has endocrine function. as well. The pituitary gland, the little bean-shaped organ that's located right there very close to the hypothalamus, incredibly important endocrine gland. You will spend quite a bit of time discussing its functions. The thyroid gland, hopefully you remember that that's the butterfly-shaped gland that's located on the anterior side of the trachea and makes some very important hormones for metabolism. The parathyroid glands that you have, little tiny ones located on the posterior side of the thyroid, produce parathyroid hormone. You've already learned about that in Biology 201 when you study the skeletal system. That hormone is crucial for proper calcium homeostasis. Hopefully you remember that as well. The adrenal glands, little hat-shaped glands that sit on top of the kidneys, produce several different hormones that are very important for various aspects of homeostasis. Ovaries and testes, ovaries of course in the female, testes in the male, they produce the sex hormones, estrogen and testosterone, and you will learn more about those in Unit 3 on the reproductive system than you will here in this system. Okay, so there are also, though, organs, structures, tissues within the body that don't only function as endocrine glands. They have multiple roles, but they do contain cells within the tissue or the organ that produce hormones. Those include your thymus. Your thymus gland sits just superior to the heart, and it's more impressive and larger and more active in infants and children. You heard a little bit about that when we covered the immune system. And it secretes hormones that are involved in your T lymphocytes maturing properly. Your pancreas, hopefully everybody remembers where the pancreas is located. The pancreas is a multi-purpose gland, so it has both exocrine and endocrine functions. So it produces a few endocrine hormones, such as insulin. Everybody's heard about insulin and how important that is for our glucose metabolism. That's made by the pancreas. The pancreas, though, is also an exocrine type gland because it produces and secretes digestive enzymes through ducts onto the lining of the duodenum, that first little section of the small intestine. You will study that role toward the end of the semester when you cover the digestive system. And some other organs within the body or tissues within the body that make hormones that you may not have thought about before. Your adipose tissues, your fatty tissues, the stomach, the small intestine, the kidneys, and even the heart all produce one or more endocrine type hormones, even though they are not fully dedicated to just those processes. A couple of other terms that you should be familiar with, because you may hear them from time to time during the course. Endocrine hormones travel throughout the body. So they get secreted into the bloodstream from the glands. They travel everywhere, so they can actually have control over organs and tissues that are located way, way, way far away in your body from the gland where they were produced. Okay, and you'll see that when you study things like the pituitary gland up here. Controls bodily processes all throughout the whole body. There are other chemical messengers that certain cells in your body make that are called autocrine, or this word is covered up on my screen here, or paracrine functions rather than endocrine. Autocrine, auto means self. These are self-acting chemical messengers, which is kind of strange to think about, but there are cases, many cases, where cells secrete a chemical and then that chemical turns around and actually acts on that same cell and causes some type of response. And I know that sounds kind of strange. That's just the way it works, and those are called autocrine messengers. Paracrine messengers, let's say you got a cell here, and you got a cell here in some tissue. If this cell secretes some sort of a messenger chemical, which is bringing a message over here to this cell, it's a cell that's close by. It's a local cell nearby to the one that secreted that chemical messenger. That's an example of a paracrine chemical messenger. Paracrine messengers act on nearby cells. They don't tend to travel throughout the whole body and have effects very long distances away. Good examples of paracrine type messengers, your white blood cells that are so important for your immune system function secrete a lot of paracrine messengers that have many, many complex effects on nearby cells that are often other types of white blood cells. Okay, that was just a very brief overview to kind of get you oriented in thinking about the endocrine system. I will see you back for a couple of lectures on how hormones cause effects on their target cells that they're supposed to bind to and cause changes inside. So I will see you back for those 2 lectures.